Russian Black Sea collapse costs Kremlin over $25 billion after Ukrainian drone campaign. Today, the Black Sea is no longer a quiet rear area of the war. It has become a testing ground where perception, deterrence, and economic power are being dismantled in real time. What unfolded was not a single dramatic strike, but a sustained sequence of coordinated actions that exposed how fragile Russia's maritime dominance has become. Ports were turned into targets, commercial tankers into liabilities, and once secure sea lanes into zones of risk. The cumulative impact is now threatening up to roughly $25 billion a year in oil revenue, alongside compounding losses from port shutdowns, insurance shocks, and disrupted logistics. This is not a story about one explosion or one drone. It is the account of how an entire maritime system began to fail. To understand how this happened, the story must begin with the first moments recorded at sea. Today at 9:20 p.m, aboard a Turkish-flagged commercial vessel anchored inside the port of Novorossiysk, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. The ship had not departed as port conditions tightened following aerial alerts. Crew members stood on deck as low-flying unmanned aerial vehicles crossed overhead. Their voices, captured on mobile phones, reflected observation rather than panic. They described what they were seeing in real time, tracking objects in the sky with calm precision. One drone descended sharply and seconds later struck a target near the port's oil handling infrastructure. The impact was clearly visible from the deck. Within minutes, the sailors began to identify a pattern. The drones were approaching from the sea at extremely low altitude, remaining below radar coverage before briefly climbing to adjust their trajectory, and then diving onto their targets. Shortly after the first strike, another drone passed directly above the ship. Russian air defense systems could be heard engaging. Tracer fire and interceptor launches were visible in the distance. According to the crew's eyewitness observations, much of the defensive fire appeared misaligned with the drone's actual approach vectors. The sailors repeatedly noted that air defense fire was concentrated away from the direction from which the drones were arriving. These were not technical assessments, but consistent impressions recorded throughout the night. As Russian air defense systems scanned the sky, Ukrainian unmanned platforms maneuvered freely. They loitered, adjusted angles, and struck with precision. Fires began spreading across sections of the oil terminal. Storage tanks, pipelines, and auxiliary facilities were hit in succession. Emergency crews responded, but the attack did not end quickly. It continued for hours, forcing port operations to halt entirely and triggering shutdown procedures across the terminal complex. Throughout this period, Russian naval vessels remained anchored inside the harbor. Warships assigned to Black Sea defense did not sortie into open waters. Their posture remained defensive and static, focused on immediate port protection, rather than intercepting attackers at sea. Drones approaching from unconventional low-altitude maritime angles proved difficult to engage within the short detection to intercept window. By the end of the night, analysts would later describe the Novorossiysk disruption as a multi-billion-dollar shock. Once infrastructure damage, export delays, emergency response, and insurance exposure were factored in. What made the incident notable was not only the material damage, but the reaction it revealed. The Turkish crew, calmly observing explosions while remaining on deck, reflected a broader shift in perception. The Russian military presence no longer imposed fear by default. Deterrence depends not only on weapons, but on credibility. That credibility appeared to be eroding as smoke rose above the port facilities. As the night progressed, additional drones continued to arrive. They flew low enough to be tracked visually from the deck. Within minutes, the approach pattern became unmistakable. Sea-skimming flight below radar coverage, a brief climb to correct alignment, followed by a terminal dive. Despite years of investment in layered air defense, Russian systems did not adapt effectively in real time. The contrast was stark. Civilian observers identified the pattern quickly, while institutional defenses struggled to adjust. This asymmetry would later come to symbolize a wider operational failure. While Novorossiysk burned, the Russian Navy remained confined. fleet units stayed in port, unable to secure maritime corridors or disrupt the attackers' approach routes. This paralysis was not an isolated incident. It was part of a broader pattern that had unfolded over the previous 3 weeks. Over that period, Ukrainian forces conducted sustained operations across the Black Sea region, extending from Novorossiysk towards the approaches near the Turkish coast. Russian ports, oil terminals, and shipping routes were repeatedly targeted. The effect was cumulative. A single strike rarely closes a sea lane. Sustained pressure over time does. As a result, Russian commercial and naval traffic across large sections of the Black Sea slowed dramatically. International tankers began avoiding the area. Insurance premiums rose sharply. Port throughput declined across multiple facilities. This was not a formally declared blockade, but in practical terms, it functioned as one. A critical escalation occurred when the port of Temryuk was struck during this period. Temryuk serves as the gateway to the Sea of Azov and functions as a key fuel hub supplying Crimea. It had also been used as a transshipment point for coal and grain originating from occupied Ukrainian ports, such as Mariupol and Berdyansk. Damage to Temryuk disrupted both military logistics and alleged illicit commercial flows. Fuel movements toward Crimea were interrupted, reducing redundancy within Russia's southern supply network. Behind these operations was a layered strike architecture developed by Ukraine's defense industry and integrated with Western technologies. One core component was the R-360 Neptune missile, an indigenous system originally designed for coastal defense. Upgraded variants are assessed by Ukrainian-linked sources to have extended ranges approaching 1,000 kilometers and warheads exceeding 250 kilograms. These systems are believed to be capable of engaging high-value targets deep inside port areas, including radar and air defense assets, when targeting conditions permit. Supporting these missiles were jet-powered long-range drones, replacing earlier propeller-driven models. Capable of speeds approaching 800 kilometers per hour, these platforms sharply reduced reaction time for defending systems. Their payloads, often thermobaric warheads in the 50 to 100 kilogram range, were designed to maximize damage against infrastructure, rather than armored vehicles. Closer to port facilities, FP-1 and FP-2 strike drones carried even heavier warheads, estimated between 100 and 120 kilograms. Their purpose was not harassment, but physical destruction. Cranes, piers, fuel tanks, pumping stations, and loading mechanisms were systematically targeted. Together, these systems formed a layered assault that saturated static defenses and overwhelmed response capacity. On the maritime surface, Ukraine deployed naval strike drones, such as the Magura 5, in coordinated swarms. These systems transformed maritime approaches into high-risk zones, not only for warships, but also for civilian tankers. Analysts describe the result as an economic chokehold, rather than a traditional naval engagement. This pressure escalated further on the same night at 8:30 p.m., earlier in the evening, when two large oil tankers, the Kerch and the Virat, experienced explosions minutes apart while transiting a heavily monitored corridor near the Turkish coast. Both vessels were sailing empty toward Novorossiysk to load crude oil. The route they were using is one of the busiest maritime highways in the region, typically considered secure due to dense traffic. The first explosion damaged the engine room of the Kerch. Fire suppression systems were activated immediately. Before the situation stabilized, the second tanker transmitted a distress call across open maritime frequencies, reporting a drone attack. While the precise cause of the explosions remained subject to investigation, crew reports described unmanned systems in the area. Following these incidents, tanker traffic toward Novorossiysk effectively ceased. Tugboats replaced cargo vessels at the terminal, reflecting the halt in commercial operations. By late November, Russia's seaborne oil exports had fallen to approximately 1.7 million barrels per day, representing a 31% decline compared to the previous month. According to shipping and market monitoring data, this drop placed Russia on a loss trajectory, threatening around $25 billion annually in oil revenue. Ship traffic across the Black Sea declined by an estimated 40 to 50%. The impact rippled outward. Besiktas Denizcilik Grubu, one of the region's largest shipping operators, suspended participation in Russian oil transport, citing unacceptable security risk. Without foreign-flagged tankers, Russia's ability to move oil at scale diminished sharply. Insurance markets responded immediately. Premiums surged. Captains refused assignment. Each tanker left idle in port represented millions of dollars in delayed or lost revenue. The logistical consequences extended beyond commerce. Novorossiysk had served as an alternative supply hub when routes through Crimea became unreliable. It supported ferry operations and military resupply, including landing ships carrying ammunition and fuel. After the sustained attacks, docking such vessels became a calculated risk. A single successful strike could destroy both ship and cargo. Logistics underpin battlefield endurance. Fuel shortages translate directly into stalled armored units. Ammunition delays weaken frontline firepower. Every destroyed fuel tank in Novorossiysk or Temryuk echoed across the front lines in Zaporizhia and Donetsk. Port fires became budget fires, and budget fires reached the battlefield. Strategically, the situation revealed a paradox. Ukraine, a state without a traditional navy, no cruisers, no submarines, had constrained the operational freedom of Russia's Black Sea fleet, long portrayed as one of the world's most powerful. Military theory describes a fleet in being, a force that exerts influence simply by existing. Russia's fleet moved beyond that concept into a posture of concealment and avoidance. This collapse began in Crimea. Once envisioned as the cornerstone of Russian Black Sea dominance, the peninsula became increasingly untenable. Repeated strikes on Sevastopol and Feodosia degraded port infrastructure and air defenses. Russian vessels relocated to Novorossiysk, believing mainland ports would offer safety. That assumption proved false. Throughout November and December, Ukrainian intelligence units systematically targeted Crimean air defense networks. Podlit K-1 radars, critical components of S-400 systems, were sabotaged or destroyed. At least 8 radar and communications nodes were rendered inoperable, degrading coverage and response coordination. The most decisive blow came at 6:10 a.m., when footage emerged showing a MiG-29 fighter aircraft destroyed on the ground, along with its associated radar installation. Without functional radar coverage and reliable air support, ports lost their protective umbrella. Bases without eyes became exposed targets. With Crimea compromised and Novorossiysk exposed, Russia explored fallback options, including facilities in Abkhazia. Yet these locations also fell within the operational range of Ukraine's long-range unmanned systems. Geographic depth no longer guarantees security. Beyond material losses, the psychological impact was profound. For centuries, Russian strategic culture emphasized access to warm seas. Crimea's annexation was central to that vision. Now, the Black Sea had transformed into a contested environment where Russian ships could neither operate freely nor shelter safely. Public perception shifted accordingly. Novorossiysk, once distant from the war's daily reality, experienced sirens and explosions firsthand. The narrative of control fractured. The image of invulnerability weakened. In the final assessment, Russia has not merely lost ships, it has lost freedom of movement, commercial confidence, and logistical reliability in the Black Sea. The cumulative pressure, economic, military, and psychological, now threatens up to roughly $25 billion annually, with long-term consequences still unfolding. Ukraine, through asymmetric means, has imposed what functions as an economic embargo without formally declaring one. The southern gate of Russian maritime power now stands closed, not by fleets, but by drones, missiles, and sustained pressure. The question that remains is not whether the balance has shifted, but how far the consequences will extend, and whether Russia can adapt before the damage becomes increasingly difficult to reverse. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more updates.